Let's talk RRR, or Rise, Roar, Revolt, and is it as good as everybody says it is? Well, I watched after literally everybody on TikTok was praising this movie, saying it's the best movie of the year, and I gotta say, I am quite disappointed. Now, I understand it's a Tollywood film, and I'm kind of familiar with these films as I've seen a handful of them. But I will admit I'm not a fan of how long these Bollywood/Tollywood films can be, since most of it is due to the random singing and dancing throughout. That being said, RRR is not a bad film, it's just not a great film. So let's talk about my overall thoughts of the film, the good and the bad. First thing is the mix of style. Now, I know this is known as masala style, mixing action, comedy, romance, and drama together, but I don't feel like it really works, not only in this film, but most films in general that can't blend them properly. It's hard to tell if this movie is taking itself seriously or is just embracing its full cheesiness the whole way through. Shifting from awesome action to cheesy action parts and also romance and comedy can be off-putting at times. There are movies that can be action comedies like Deadpool, Zombieland, and even 22 Jump Street that can blend these all properly. The difference is when they do their action scenes, they don't shift their tone to overtly serious to then doing a 180 in their action and comedy parts. Those movies can blend their two genres perfectly, while RRR fails to do this. The story in this is pretty basic as well. Pretty much, Lady Scott, the British governor's wife, visits a village as a little girl is giving her a henna tattoo on her hand. She decides that she likes it so much that she takes the little girl away and pays her parents in a few coins. Obviously not understanding what's going on until they whisk her away in the car, that their parents realize that their daughter was just taken. We then later find out that they send what they like to call it their shepherd, aka Beam, who will stop at nothing to get her back. This is the first side of the story. The second main character is Raju, a police officer working for the British. He is told that a hunter is targeting the governor, and Lady Scott says if he can bring him back alive, that he'll be promoted to special officer. That's basically the story. Now, these two meet not knowing each other's side of the story after saving a kid's life due to the train exploding in a grand action scene. Now, they become friends after this and remain friends until about an hour 20 into this film when Raju finds out that Beam is actually the guy he's been hunting. Going back to when the girl was taken, I didn't realize that this movie was going to be so violent for it being only PG-13. The mom gets whacked in the head with a log in the most over-the-top way, which was funny because how unexpected it was. And it's left her pretty bloody. We are then introduced to Raju in the most over-the-top crowd fight scene ever. This man said, "Hold my hat," and just yeets himself into the crowd of hundreds to just arrest one guy. Raju is a savage for taking everyone on. This scene is pretty enjoyable, even though it is a little goofy at times. I do like how at the end, he just goes back to where he was standing after arresting the dude, and everybody is scared of him, and they all retreat. In this 3-hour movie, you roughly get 40 minutes of action. Also, this man rivals Burt Reynolds with the best mustache. Raju just oozes masculinity in this film. We then get a scene with Bahim getting chased by a CGI tiger. Now, the CGI is not the worst I've ever seen, but you can definitely tell they're not the best looking. And it's very hit and miss in this film. It's definitely no Life of Pi. Now, this movie's supposed to be in Telugu, but for whatever reason, Netflix uploaded the Hindi version, which isn't that big of a deal for me because I would have to read the subtitles anyways. But all the English speakers in this movie are really weird sounding. They sound way too overproduced and like they're all ADR'd. It was just really distracting.
Oh, is there a bus stop or a tram station nearby?
Now let's talk about the cinematography in this. Now, this film looked really great, especially in 4K. A lot of the shots looked epic, and a lot of the slow-mo scenes and the action really worked. The first cringy part of this movie was after they saved the boy from under the bridge. They both jump into the water and then grab each other's hand, reminiscent of the scene from Predator.
You son of a bitch.
We then get this 5-minute montage of the narrator singing pretty much everything that's going on in the story so far. Singing about the new friendship and that it's yet to be seen if this will end in bloodshed. I just found this really goofy and pointless when they could have focused narratively on Raju trying to find Bahim's friend. We are then introduced to, I guess, the love interest Jenny? Bahim thinks she's really pretty and so Raju helps him talk to her. But the problem is, he doesn't speak a lick of English at all. So when they go to the market together, he is just kind of staring at her and is saying stuff to her, but she has no idea what he's saying, and she keeps on saying, "I don't know what you're saying to me." I don't understand why Jenny wants to keep hanging out with him after he brought her to the market. She even invites him to a party. I think if they gave Bahim like broken English in this movie, this romance would have made at least some sense. Because every time they're together, they either don't know what each other are saying or Raju has to translate for him. Also, this movie tries to make her seem like the only good English person, even though she's still living in a house with an enslaved girl, which she never once voices discontent about the situation and just seems unbothered by it, just going to the market and buying her clothes. Like, she doesn't even tell Bahim that, hey, we have a Indian girl behind bars in our mansion. Then fast forward to the party, Bahim is tripped by the racist white dude who clearly likes Jenny. To which then Raju starts making a beat on the drums and the first dance number happens. Now, is the dance choreography in this good? Yes, that scene was very well done. But did it have anything to do with the story? No. They could have edited this completely out and it wouldn't affect the story at all. We still could have done the market scene, which then her car gets fixed, and then she still could have invited Bahim back to her place. This would still allow Raju seeing the paint on her car, getting that lead, and Bahim still getting to see Molly in the mansion. Now let's talk about the second biggest action scene in this movie, where they release all the animals on the governor's mansion. Did it look cool when they all jumped out? Kinda. Did this plan make any sense at all? No. And tell me why, with the amount of soldiers there were, we only had a few of them shoot at the car, and then when all the animals jumped out, they all forgot how to shoot? You had 17 animals and over 200 soldiers at that party. This should have been a clear wash, with the soldiers winning by a landslide. There's a scene where Molly gets grabbed by the guard and gets thrown back into the mansion, which was super reminiscent of a PS2 action-adventure game, and I just found it hilarious. Also, it's really never explained why these guys have pseudo-superhero powers, like they have superhero strength and agility, and I just don't get it. We then get the hilarious scene where Raju walks up to Bahim and is trying to arrest him, and he's not making eye contact with it at all, and he's trying to grab his hand, and Bahim just keeps on moving his hand away, and he's like, bro, just let me arrest you. And I was cracking up during this scene. So we finally go into the subplot of this movie, which was the 15-minute flashback that we didn't need at all. We learned that Raju's father worked for the British Army and they defected and then trained his whole village to fight back. We then learn Raju is like an excellent marksman and has perfect aim, which has never been established in this film at all. Like, Raju's been shown to be an amazing fighter, but not once has he shot a gun leading up to this point. Suddenly they are attacked by a platoon of soldiers, and for whatever reason, Raju's father can take like most of them on. And these soldiers don't use any strategy at all. They just mindlessly walk forward as his father just picks them apart one by one. No flanking, no military strategy, and it's just a really goofy scene. Raju then promises his father after he's about to die that he will arm his village for guns to get revenge. Thus, we go back to the present, learning that this is what Raju has been doing as an officer for years, is collecting guns to then bring back to his village for that big revenge scene. We then get a scene where Raju and Beam are in front of the governor and he wants him to kneel and confess to his crimes. I think this is a good time to talk about my most hated character in this, which is Lady Scott. Not only is her acting atrocious, but every single time she is on film, it just annoys me.
But he barely even cried out loud. And where's the blood? I was expecting a pool at his...
From the way she talks to her mannerisms, she's just wretched. And this whole movie is literally because of her actions in taking that little girl. That, and also how this movie depicts the English as this cartoonishly evil characters, I just don't like it. So while Raju is whipping Beam, of course he breaks out in the song to say how strong he is. This is one thing I never like about these movies, and I feel like it just breaks the tension. I just think it'd be a lot better if he said out loud some inspiring lines about how he won't kneel instead of singing about it. Don't get me wrong, I like musicals, but this movie isn't a musical. Also, I find it hilarious how all the British soldiers and the governor have name tags. Like, back in the day, they did not have that, and it's just so out of place. After this, Bahim is sentenced to death, and Raju rigs all the guns so they won't fire at his execution. We then get another ridiculous action scene where the governor's car gets hit, sending him flying midair, grabs his sniper rifle, and shoots Raju's car, sending it into a cartoon corkscrew. Fast forward and Raju is captured after freeing Bahim, and according to the governor, it's been months, and now he has long hair. Bahim then comes to his rescue and breaks him out of jail, to which they then form what I like to call the human Megazord and run at a bunch of British soldiers in the most goofy, over-the-top fight scene. We then get Raju, who's double akimboing 2 rifles and just taking out so many British soldiers on top of Bahim's shoulders. Fast forward to the forest where Bahim is grabbing some random stuff to heal Raju of his wounds. And apparently this heals Raju, but in doing so gives him special powers, and they call him the descendant of Raghu, or Rama, who is always depicted with a bow and arrow. We then get our final fight scene, which is pretty decent, even though the grenades explosions are that of C4 and warhead missiles. I mean, look at that explosion in the forest. That is not a grenade. At the end, the day is saved, the governor is killed, Raju brings all the guns to his village, and Bahim brings the little girl back to hers. I would say the end, but then we get another random dance number at the end for no reason. It felt like I was watching a stage play about random different Indian figureheads. This is like if at the end of an American movie you saw the actors dancing with a bunch of famous American figureheads in the background. This movie just dragged for me. Like, I like over-the-top action when they know what they want to do, but this movie didn't feel like it knew what it wanted to do. But this was just all over the place. Like, it wanted to be serious, and then it wanted to be super cheesy and over the top. And then it brought it back down to the drama and the comedy. It had some decent moments, and some of the action was quite entertaining. The story wasn't great, and the mix of styles just didn't work, and it just brings it to just being an average film. If this movie knew what it wanted to be, like a action comedy, and stuck with that theme, then I probably would have liked it a lot more. This is why I give RRR a 6 out of 10. If you guys like this long rant review, hit that thumbs up. And if you guys want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.